BBC's Mary Hockaday there. A recent poll in the UK revealed a high level of support among managers for making COVID vaccines mandatory for staff returning to work. The survey by the Chartered Management Institute showed that around half think office access should be restricted for those who refuse to get a vaccination on non-medical grounds. But what are the legal, ethical and privacy issues of such a measure? I'm joined now by Bennett, an employment lawyer and an associate with the British legal firm Farrer & Co. I'm also joined by Carol Spink, who specialises in employer vaccine programmes, both in the US and internationally. Carol is a partner at McDermott, Will and Emery. Welcome to you both. Great to have you on the programme. Lauren, if I can start with you, would it be legal for employers to not allow employees back into the office if they don't have a vaccine?
That's a great question. I think one on the minds of most employers in the country at the moment, and it's there are clearly legal risks there from an employment perspective. I'll be talking about the sort of general legal principles involved, but obviously each case will be very fact specific when you get to the courts and tribunals. But broadly speaking, some of the issues that might come up would be discrimination, any employees that have protected characteristics, so potentially disabilities, pregnant employees might be protected, and there's also potentially a risk of a breach of trust and confidence argument if an employer unreasonably tries to force an employee into having a vaccine. So I think there are certainly risks there that employers need to be aware of, and it's, as I say, as yet untested in the courts and tribunals, so we're not yet sure how they will approach the issue.
Carol, bring us the picture in the United States. Is there a feeling, do you think, generally amongst employers that employees will have to have a vaccine before they can come back into the office?
No, certainly. That's been very much on top of mind for most U.S. employers. In the U.S., like the U.K., employers can implement a mandatory vaccination program, but that's subject to very important considerations and exclusions, some of which Lauren mentioned about the need to individually engage in interactive process to accommodate individuals for sincerely held religious beliefs, for medical and disability related issues. But there certainly is the legal ability to do so, but what we've been seeing is that most employers are opting for more of a voluntary program approach.
And Lauren, I guess there's a balance here between the rights of employees and their bosses, because some employees might not want their information out there. Some might even not want to go back to work unless they know that their colleagues are vaccinated.
Yeah, that's right. And it's going to be a difficult balancing exercise for employers. And I think what will be key is communication with employees, talking to them about their concerns and their anxieties, because it's very real for lots of individuals. And it will be a case of, yes, balancing against the employee that doesn't want to have a vaccine versus the employee that feels very anxious about coming back to work with people that haven't had a vaccine. And there is no sort of easy, obvious answer. It'll be a case of speaking to all involved and seeing what solution you can come up with. And as you say, there are also data protection issues to think about. And if you are collecting data on whether employees have taken the vaccine, that would be special category data, and you need to think very carefully about how you deal with that and undertake a privacy impact assessment on how you deal with that data.
And Carol, what are the pros and cons to having to insist on being vaccinated?
Certainly, there are. I mean, obviously the pros are that you can probably bring folks back to work much quicker, but certainly the cons seem to be outweighed by, again, all the discrimination concerns I've mentioned about having to reasonably accommodate, making sure that your HR and your supervisors and managers are adequately trained and understand all of the requirements so that you can lower that risk of discrimination. Certainly, we also have privacy considerations here. Anything beyond asking someone's status would be protected under special rules. So that's why, and the CDC has recently come out with some guidance for employers. And although nothing to date has pushed for a mandatory approach, some of the things Lauren mentioned about communication and education as the vaccine becomes more available, again, I foresee the voluntary approach to be the one.
Carol Spink and Lauren Bennett, really interesting to get your views. We'll see, won't we, when people do start returning to the office, what happens. Thanks very much.